Today, I will be unboxing an iPad Pro 1st Gen 12.9 inch that supposedly has never been updated and is running its original software version iOS 9. And as you can see, it has slide to unlock and everything. I just slided it and it did that one motion, so you can 100% tell this is iOS 9, plus it doesn't have like the time on the top right here. This is definitely not iOS 10, that's what I can say. I also noticed it has a little bright spot on the screen right there, which does kind of suck, but that's pretty common with these models. But other than that, it's pretty clean looking. There is a dent on the back, but thankfully there's no bending in the frame of this thing, because that is very common on these models. But let me get this thing erased and activated, and I'll come back to you and we'll start talking about the history of the iPad Pro 1st Gen.
Several days later.
Now let's get into the unique specs and history of this 12.9 inch iOS 9 iPad Pro. The 12.9 inch variant released November 11th of 2015, while its 9.7 inch variant released March 31st of 2016. The 12.9 inch was the very first iPad to feature a bigger screen size. As you can very much see, this thing is absolutely gargantuan. So let me bring up its predecessor, the iPad Air 2, just so you can see. iPad Pro 12.9. iPad Air 2. This thing literally looks like an iPad mini compared to this. It's absolutely insane. And before, you would only be able to get a iPad mini or a standard 9.7. And I have a really funny idea. This is a 12.9 inch iPad. This is the iPad mini 2. And with the bigger screen, that also meant the resolution was absolutely insane on this iPad, coming in at about 2048 by 2732. Comparing that to the iPad Air 2, that had a screen resolution of about 1536 by 2048. So it's absolutely insane that you can get an iPad with this screen size all the way back in 2015. Although that 9.7 inch iPad Pro, which I do not have, and I really wish I had one on iOS 9, but those are insanely rare, had a much cooler screen overall, as it had True Tone support. And the 12.9 probably did not get this because, of course, it's got an absolutely gigantic screen, and it's just a first-gen Apple product. Usually these kind of suck no matter what. But I'm not saying this thing sucks. I do really like this iPad. This also was the very first iPad to feature Apple Pencil support. If you do not know what the Apple Pencil is, it's basically a stylus of some sort that is good for like drawing and other creative work. And for 2016, it was absolutely crazy, mainly due to how good and accurate the first gen Apple Pencil was. Now, I wish I could show off one, but I don't have one. The smart connector was added, which is pretty much these three prongs you see on the side of this iPad. And these were also magnetic, and it's good for things like keyboards mostly. And it is also used on modern iPads until this day. And now let's get into the color options of this 12.9 inch iPad Pro. It came in three colors, which are pretty much the same as that previous iPad Air 2 we were talking about. Silver, gold, and this is pretty much the same gold you would see on that iPad Pro, or space gray, and again, this is essentially the same space gray that you would see on the iPad Pro. Although for some reason that 9.7 also got the rose gold color, which this thing did not have. I'm not completely sure why, but yeah. It came in three storage options: 32 gig, 128, which this thing is a 128, and 256 gigs. And 256 gigs is absolutely insane and overkill for iOS 9. This also was the first iPad to have quad speakers, as before you would have something like this where you would only have two speakers. Well, the iPad Pro got two speakers towards the bottom, and as you can see, two more towards the top. And on some even older iPads, you would only get like one speaker, so four speakers is kind of crazy. And in comparison, this is an iPad 2, by the way. This was still getting support in 2016 with iOS 9, and it's crazy that this is supported at the same time a quad speaker iPad is out. And the speakers on these are actually pretty good and kind of hold up today, in my opinion. They have some pretty good sound quality. Let me play you some music that is no copyrighted, obviously. Now, obviously, this is not really a good show off, but these are pretty good. And it's actually very immersive with the quad speakers. Since this iPad is massive, that of course means the battery is also massive. It came in at a whopping 10,307 milliamp hours, and it got about 10 hours of battery life because of it. And because of that, it actually has some like iPad 3-esque charging times, even with the lightning connector. When I got this, it took like a whopping 1.5 hours for this to increase 15% while I was charging it. It's crazy. Although it is not quite as bad as that iPad 3 I mentioned, because that of course had the 30-pin connector. This iPad featured pretty much the same camera as that iPad Air 2 back here, featuring the same 8-megapixel camera, and it also lacked a flash. Newer features like flash would be reserved for the 9.7 variant, which came out with a dual LED flash and a crazy good 12-megapixel camera. This iPad also had a crazy overkill A9X processor with over 4 gigs of RAM, which is more than some base model iPads released in like 2017 through 2018. It also had a 12-core GPU, which is insanely powerful, and I'm playing some Minecraft as we speak, and this is going through like butter, and I have this on like max settings for everything. So let's go in here, render distance all the way up, brightness all the way up, fancy graphics, beautiful graphics, yeah. And if you're curious what version of Minecraft I'm playing on, I'm playing 13.0, so this is one of the more lightweight versions of Minecraft that you can play, but overall this thing is super smooth on here. The more you look at the specs of this thing, the more you wonder why this did not get 120 Hertz support, and you had to wait over a whole year for that on the iPad Pro 2. Now, I wish I could show you one working on 10, but mine is in shambles at the moment. But yeah, this iPad Pro 1 only had 60 Hertz for some reason, when it very much could have supported 120 with the amount of power it has, and also has a standard dual-core CPU. Now, the crazy power of the 12.9-inch iPad Pro is a great segue into the software of iOS 9 on this thing, as sure it was very lightweight overall and is super smooth, probably due to it being the very first version of iOS you can get on this thing. It did have some cool multitasking features which took advantage of the processing power and RAM of this pretty good. These multitasking features also allowed Apple to market this as somewhat of a laptop replacement, so let's get into that now. You could do a split view with multiple apps at the same time. This was very cool if you were watching a TV show or YouTube while at the same time, say, talking like your friend on iMessage or reading the news. As you can see, I have music and news pulled up at the same time. There also was another cool feature called Slide Over, where you could go from app to app without actually having to leave the app you're in at the same time. As you can see, I'm sliding over from YouTube to Minecraft, I guess, yeah, to Minecraft again, to settings. Picture-in-picture was added here also, which is pretty much the feature where you can continue watching a video in like a small little window as you open other apps. It also works with things like FaceTime. iOS 9 also got a different app switcher compared to something on like iOS 7 or iOS 8, as it only now features just the apps, and it kind of does this motion where they stack on top of each other from the left side. And if we go look at it on iOS 8, you'll see what I mean. So here's an iPod Touch 6 on iOS 8. I didn't really mean to flex. Actually, I did. I will be making a video on this. Let's go look at the multitasking. It shows a overview of all of the apps, and they're not really stacked up on top of each other. I overall think this is better, to be honest. And it also shows like your recent contacts up here. iOS 9 was also the last iOS to feature the iconic slide to unlock that would be removed in iOS 10. So let's slide to unlock right now. And yeah, iOS 9 also now features a slightly different font compared to their previous Helvetica Neue. This one being San Francisco, and it is Apple's own in-house font, and it is pretty much their version of Helvetica Neue. I have a love-hate relationship with this font because I like that it means I can differentiate iOS 9 and iOS 8 when I'm scouting for new devices, but at the same time, I think iOS 9's San Francisco overall looks worse than Helvetica Neue. And I do know that is very subjective, but I overall just think it looks kind of worse. And that San Francisco font is actually still used to this day on iOS 26. Intelligence in Siri also got some improvements, with things like proactive assistance, which did things like provide relevant information before you were typing, and you can very much see that right here. It could also do things like notify you when you need to leave for appointments, learn what you listen to in a certain location or at a particular time of day. It can automatically show controls for your like preferred music and audio apps, and it can also suggest events and contact details that are added to apps based on information found in like mail or messages. Now onto Siri. It overall got a slightly different design compared to something like iOS 8, so let's look at iOS 8 right now. And yeah, you can kind of see it is different. As on iOS 8, it's overall just blurred, and it doesn't really have much of like this colored look. I don't know how else to describe it. It has like a slightly tinted look on the blur here. It's more darker also, And when you actually activate Siri, it also has a different look to what it shows when you're speaking, like I don't know what you would call this, audio waves, I don't know. You could also now search your photos and videos based on dates, locations, and album names. So let's try to do this right now. Show me my very oldest photo. Well, that didn't work, but allegedly, this is possible. You could also ask Siri to remind you about things that you were like doing in your apps, including Safari, Mail, Notes, and Messages. You could also do things like request directions for like public transit. Spotlight search also got a much different look. Spotlight search overall looked different on iOS 8, and you would pull it up by just sliding up like this and not sliding to the left like you would be able to do on iOS 9, as you very much can see. The News app was also added to iOS 9, replacing the Newsstand app on iOS 8. As on here, I think you would have to download whatever magazine that you wanted, and it would go into the Newsstand right here, and it overall looks a bit different. But on News, it's just a standard news app that you would just see headlines and stuff like that. The Notes app also got a redesign, and you could do things like draw on it. So let me go draw on here right now. I'm just draw something random like a smiley face, I don't even know. And then I would go up here, I would hit done. And then yeah, you could also do things like create checklists. So let's try that right now. Let's write something in here. Release this YouTube video on time. I never do that. And then I would just hit return, and then I would get like bullet points and shit like that. But yeah. And you also could do things like add photos to it. So I'm gonna pull up my photo library. I'm gonna add like a random wallpaper like this iOS 7 wallpaper. And yeah, Maps got some improvements and actually still works on iOS 9 somehow. You could look for things like public transit lines, station details with exits and entrances, schedules, and directions. You could also browse for places around you by category, including food, drinks, shopping, and more. And place cards would now have like more information that would be pulled directly from Wikipedia. So let's see if I can do that right now. So let's go somewhere in like Russia, like this airport right here. And you're gonna see it's gonna pull up a ton of information. And you can also see stuff from Wikipedia right here. But yeah, that is all the main news stuff added in iOS 9. And now let's explore the device a little further. Now, as usual, I jailbroke this device, as I mean, the series is called Unboxing and Jailbreak. So let me show you what Cydia looks like on this thing. Now, it is super cursed because what I did is I had to Frankenstein Cydia onto this thing, as normally like you cannot sideload a jailbreak on this thing once you have activated it. I had to like manually drop the jailbreak files into this thing with a RAM disk, and I don't think it is perfectly optimized for the 12.9-inch screen from what I can see here. But yeah, I do have Cydia on this thing, and because of that, I was able to get like 15 different versions of Minecraft and a bunch of other applications I was able to get on here with iPhone OS Obscura and AppDrop. So let's go through them right now. I got Jetpack Joyride on here, which I always get, and apparently it wants me to download the latest version, which obviously is not possible. I guess we're not looking at that. I'll probably have to get a different IPA. Let's look at Ninjump. I always get this on my legacy iPads no matter what. I played this back on the iOS 4 era. I know this is not really iOS 9 era, but it's still cool that I have this on here. I got this like Poo app or whatever the hell it's called. I don't even know how you pronounce it. I did play this back in the day, and it's like you take care of whatever this thing is. I don't even know what you'd call it. I got Angry Birds on here. I think this one is from the iOS 4 era, and a bunch of other apps, as you can see. So let's go take a look at Minecraft. I have Minecraft 13.0 on here. I did make a world on here, a couple of them actually. And yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff on here too. Like, let's look at something that will probably look insanely cursed on here. I have Minecraft Lite on here, and with the resolution, this looks absolutely crazy. So let's load up a world on here, make a world rather. And oh my god, this is so weird. This is 100% not optimized. I also synced up some of my music on here, as I did mention I activated this thing and was able to get stuff on here. I couldn't get iCloud or the App Store working though, which does kind of suck, but at least I was able to sync with iTunes. Here's a look at the Game Center, which is very nostalgic with this like bubbly look. I really love how this looks. Here's all the mail services you could get in 2016, or 2015 rather, with the mail app. I did fix the YouTube app, as you can see, and I'm also signed in. Here's what the podcast app looked like on iOS 9, and this is kind of weird looking with how this version of flat design looked on here. I do kind of prefer it to like what you got in later versions of flat design with like iOS 11. I really do not like those versions of flat design. I do think iOS 7 through 10 were peak flat design versions. Here is what the FaceTime app would have looked like, and yeah, you can see my face and and like this blurry sidebar here where you would sign in and everything. Now there's a bunch of other stuff I could go through in here, but it's not really interesting. That was mainly the cool stuff I did want to show you on this iPad. And yeah, that is my iOS 9 iPad Pro 1st gen that I just unboxed. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribing with notifications on, hyping the video, sharing this to someone that would find this interesting, and also please consider checking out my social media accounts, which I have in the description and in the end card. I have a Twitter, a TikTok, a second YouTube channel, and a Reddit. But yeah, this has been Derek from Certified Legacy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
What we do here is go back.